Hey everybody, welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 338, being recorded on February 25th, 2014. I'm Ryan Shrout.
Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Alan Malmontano.
I'm Sebastian Peak.
Hey!
I'm really surprised this time that you're sitting there.
The surprise gets more genuine every time we do this
Intro. Right.
Yes. Especially the
we
second
recorded
time.
another video earlier in the day, and I had to be like, oh, hey, look, it's Sebastian's here. Hey, thanks for joining us, right? He's been here for a day and a half at this point already.
We're over it now.
Yeah, it's kind of, man, when's he going back?
Go back home.
Oh,
to
too
Michigan?
bad, because my
Bags
cot's
in
over there, and I'm here to stay.
So Josh is attending an event with Suns playing basketball during halftime at the Wyoming game tonight. That's where he is at today. And we just happened to have a fill-in who drove in from Kalamazoo, Michigan. Drove all the way down, whatever
cool
those
name.
roads are.
Mostly highways.
Right, okay. I'm with you. Mm-hmm. All right, so
They were going
Make
south.
the right turn at Albuquerque, you're good.
Yeah.
always make the correct turn at Albuquerque. And so Sebastian's here, and he's joining us, and we're going to do a podcast. And other than that, it's just going to be like a normal podcast, so we'll just go ahead and get started, guys. First and foremost, I will mention off the top, we did have an EVGA contest last week on the podcast. This person will win a... Why do you look so dejected already?
Because you already screwed up the rundown.
But that's not the order in here.
It's right there.
but-
EVGA contest. Oh,
fine.
subscribe. Okay, fine.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Yeah, subscribe. Okay, next.
The EVGA contest winner is, I'll just go first name, last initial, Ross I. Ross I won a GTX 960 SSC and a Z97 FTW motherboard. He already has an email for me asking for his address and everything.
Sweet.
So big thanks to EVGA for supporting us and sponsoring that, and for everybody that signed up. And we will have more of those relatively soon.
And this is where he's going to learn to tell the ice cream man not the right address.
True. Yeah, don't do that. And if you want to make sure, we're going to go back one here now. If you want to make sure you don't miss any of these super special events, you need to be subscribed to our mailing list at PCPer.com/subscribe, which takes you to this page here. And you send in, give us your name and email address. You probably shouldn't put Ryan Shrout in that field. It's just pre-populated thanks to LastPass for me.
And then you won't win.
Well, this is not for winning anything. This is to send you an email when we go to a live event.
You do win in a way.
Everybody who's on the mailing list wins.
You're all winners.
Well, you would get the email, but it would be addressed to Ryan Shrout.
Yes, but it would just so, you know, how
still get it, I guess.
just say Ryan Shrout with, Malventano at PCPer.com.
So if you want to be...
You could be Ryan Shrout. I will still send emails to people who are registered as Ryan Shrout.
He sends himself a reminder every week.
I get it.
That's true.
I do that, actually.
It shows up on his watch.
From Ryan Shrout.
And
like
you can see
Twilight
we're
Zone.
running hashtag JoshTech if you're watching us on the live stream. This is some of the cool stuff you get to take advantage of when you're at PCPer.com/live, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, Wednesdays, and then, of course, PCPer.com/subscribe to make sure you don't miss out. Now, I would normally kind of comment on these tweets that are being out there, but I can't really read them, and they're probably not really relevant to begin with.
No.
So we're just going to let it be hilarious canon
They are
fodder for
relevant.
the audience.
They were giving Sebastian a hard time for having
because
a
of
Mac.
this.
Yes.
already. You were right. Okay. You correctly called that. So,
It's
what
the
else
ultimate sin
happened?
on a PC enthusiast podcast.
Another reminder, this Saturday, we have our 9th PC Perspective Fragging Frogs VLAN occurring. And that is, as the name implies, Jeremy, it is a virtual LAN party. Anything specific standing out for this particular iteration of the VLAN?
Well, as usual, AMD will be giving out what I believe is technically termed a metric shit ton of prizes.
Sweet.
As always, there are going to be another couple of people giving things away from what I've been hearing. Unfortunately, perhaps not Bohemia, but we're still working on that. So if you head over to the forums, you'll be able to see not only when the start time is, which is this Saturday about 10 a.m. Eastern time, going until the very last frog drops. And since some of them are across the international date line, this could be quite late in the evening as usual.
This might be our first virtual LAN to span 2 months. Going from February 28th to March 1st.
We just need to set up some IV bags so that we can stay hydrated. But if you head over there, Lenny has put together a great guide on how to get on TeamSpeak, which not only is the best way to talk to people while you're playing games or just hanging out in the lobby. If you're not on TeamSpeak, you ain't going to win. We've also got a long list of the games that we're going to be playing, along with the various mods and patches that are best to be had if we're going to be doing it. You better mod your Unreal Tournament 2004.
I was going to say, UT 2004.
80 gigs, I think, is the install about now.
Always a classic for UT 2004. I'm going to stop by for a little bit. I'll come in the office Saturday and play
Training
some.
Day with Redeemers. It's so worth it.
And it plays on all hardware.
I'm going to, let's see. Do I have any? What's my cheapest Windows-based tablet? Do I have one of those? I could get that Venue 11 Pro and put
buy that WinBook that's been on sale for like 59 bucks this week.
Actually, yeah,
it's like 59 bucks.
Nice.
Baytro.
So if you want more information on that, we'll have a link in the show notes for the podcast, or you can go to the forums. Just the regular. If you go to PCPer.com and click on the forums tab, and then go into the gaming and fragging frogs subforums, you'll see that thread.
And there is one new thing this particular time.
Oh, okay.
I am apropos has streamed this most of the time. We're actually streaming this on AMD's official Twitch this time.
Oh, cool.
So, hey, it's getting bigger, and we're not even in double digits yet. So, hope to see you there on Saturday.
Should be fun. All right, let's get into reviews and other crap that occurred. Somebody wrote a review of the ASUS STRIX Tactic Pro mechanical keyboard, and he happens to be sitting at the table, so we'll let him talk about it. So this is it is a Cherry, well, as the title says, Cherry MX Brown keyboard. What did you think about ASUS's implementation?
I hadn't used Cherry MX Brown before, and it's, first of all, the keyboard is super nice. It's extremely well
build quality
made.
wise,
Build quality
yeah.
is super. Like, took it out of the box, and it's like you can't make it creak. It's like it's heavy, but not too heavy. Like, it's got 8 rubber feet on the bottom, so it sits nice and firmly in place on your desk. Doesn't move around.
Yeah.
And then the keycaps are really nice. I like a certain amount of key travel, and I like a certain feel, and it's got like nicely concave keycaps, and it feels good typing on it. Cherry MX Brown is almost a little grainy feeling.
Yeah.
I
use Browns too on like personal keyboard.
This is the one that has, here's the animations that Scott made for us. It has like a secondary click to it.
Yeah.
It has like a secondary amount of travel.
It's very subtle though. Like, unlike the blue, which has that significant like pre-click almost.
Yep.
Where you've got that click and then the push.
and it goes all the way down.
This thing just, it feels linear, but it just has a little bit of a, it almost, I was talking to my brother about it actually. He's like, it feels like it's dirty. It feels like a dirty mechanical keyboard.
It's like a speed bump.
It's a
You
little,
know what I'm saying?
well, yeah. I
You know
mean,
what I'm saying?
So it's more leather and less feather?
you got it. A grainy
How
leather.
many times did Jeremy watch 50 Shades of Grey this week? Is the real question that everybody's dying to know. Hashtag Josh.
None. I could have written that shit.
Give us your answers. Give us your answers. at
Just from
hashtag
personal
Josh.
experience.
He could have
This is
taped it himself.
He could have written it.
It looks, from this profile picture, it looks fairly tall. Is it like
It's a chunky.
like
Yeah, it
high
does
off
look
the
like a tall
high off the
keyboard.
ground? Well, high off the table. Or
Yeah, I mean,
whatever.
like there's like a side profile. It's not really like, not in the world of like gaming keyboards. It's
Okay.
not real big.
Yeah.
But and it's kind of an interesting shape. It's got cool style, like the picture at the bottom of the
Ooh,
first screen.
orange keycaps.
Oh, yeah.
How many orange? They give you just 4 orange
Just
keycaps.
the 4, yeah. And a little key removal tool. Mm-hmm. Kind of looks like the bat symbol a little bit.
Yeah. It's kind of got the ear tips, wing tips, whatever.
Which is a plus.
So this is their Strix brand. So maybe that's supposed to insinuate some kind of owl shape, right? Because the Strix is the owl logo here.
No, it's like owl
Got there.
eyeballs.
Yeah,
Owls are in right now.
owls are in.
guess.
Yeah. They're very popular right now. They're hot.
So it's got like a nice backlight. You can set it to like 4 different brightness settings. One of them's like a pulsing.
Not
light.
RGB, but it
No,
is.
no, it's just this
single
sort
color.
of amber.
Yeah,
It's got some
Orange
extra programmable
color.
keys from the looks of it.
Yeah, it's 21 total if you count the F keys because they're programmable as well.
Oh, cool.
It's got these little buttons down below the space bar, which you can program as like mouse buttons or anything else that you want to. And the software was really easy to use. You open it up and you just like, it has the keyboard and you like click on the key you want to map and just like drop down and create any kind of action you want.
It's interesting. There are 3 programmable buttons below the space bar.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Huh.
Well, think about it. What if you're doing something where
Yeah.
you need like a
that
rapid,
thumb-
like instead of reaching over to like tap
Yeah.
Yeah.
on your.
Yeah, your thumb's
I just
already
don't know if
there.
I've seen that in anything else. It's pretty cool.
No,
I
I
haven't.
programmed it to the left and right mouse buttons. So I was playing and I didn't need to use it very often, but it's kind of cool because you can like
Yeah.
tap it quickly, and I don't know.
It's got
Were they the
volume,
kind of
volume
buttons-
control rocker at the top, like roller at the top right?
Yep, the top right's got the roller, and that was actually really precise. Like, it doesn't just like move the volume all the way up and down. I could move it in like single
Yeah.
digit increments, and everything functions like you would expect it to.
Yeah.
Does it actually have notches to it, like as your, or is it just smooth? Because some keyboards it's smooth.
It was
like the-
smooth. It was.
Okay.
There's a little bit of resistance, but I don't remember it having like
It wasn't like a
actual-
click.
No.
Wasn't like
when
a
you
mouse
turn-
wheel.
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know another big thing about it, like part of the deal with this keyboard is it's got full, like N key
Rollover.
rollover.
Mm-hmm.
So like you enable and you can like press every key down. It has like the full.
That's how I key.
Wait, I type that way all the time.
God. Alan
And then
story.
and then an article comes out. Yeah.
Infinite amount of monkeys and/or infinite amount of hand slams.
Yes. Eventually a story.
Eventually,
will
a
come
story
out.
comes out.
Yeah.
And if you're a traditionalist, then you can set it to like the 6, like the usual like 6 key.
Is there
I don't know.
some disadvantage to not just using the full like?
I don't know. Like maybe if you were plugging into like a USB 1,
Oh,
I'm not
yeah.
sure. But it's there. You can switch.
Software
between the
looks
two.
simple, and after a couple of user experiences with some other software, that's a plus. Now, it's not an RGB, so you're not trying to program something in the same way, but it still looks pretty nice.
Yeah, it's nice. It's one of those things where I'm like, it really does deserve like high marks. It's really well made. It's a great implementation of the MX Brown.
Yeah.
If you're an MX Brown person, but you'd have to try the different keycaps or the different key switches. I'm sorry to know.
Yeah.
How much is it?
$150.
It's.
So it's
I hate to say it's like, well, that's pretty normal for a keyboard, but it's not outside the
not.
realm. I saw some people in the comments talk about, oh, I can't believe that it's for that money. It should be RGB.
Yeah, because that's kind of close to the price of the RGB.
Yeah. But I wonder what some of the other trade-offs would be. Interesting, I didn't see this. The Newegg link has a listed as PC Perspective Gold Award winner on the
Really?
Newegg page.
Already?
Yeah.
Well,
And besides, honestly, at this point, I would pay extra for non-RGB.
But you can always
Why?
turn it
I want it
off.
glowing.
You can just turn it off.
you can program
Yeah.
it to whatever you want.
I mean, because this has a backlight, right? It's just solid one color. It's multiple
You'd have to
stages.
I guess you'd have to see it in person because it is like if there was like a store display or something and you're looking at these things, it's just like all business. It's like a matte finish.
Okay.
It's super strong.
I like
heavy
that.
feeling.
What's the keyboard I have there? I can never remember the damn name of it. It's the Topre Type Heaven.
It's
And it has the
weird name.
clear.
No, it's the electrostatic
Capacitive.
capacitive. It's not a cherry switch.
It's not mechanical.
So
it's technically not mechanical, but it's like
Yeah.
it's a good in between, and I love the finish of it because it is a flat matte black with a little bit of texture on the keys that is kind of starting to wear a little bit now
Yeah,
that
they
I've
get
used it for
shiny.
a long time. They start to get shiny. Like laptop keyboards are notorious for that, right? But
Yeah.
if you look at my Lenovo keyboards, they're always like that. It looks like I just eat French fries all day long and use the keyboard, but
I think it's
Yeah, but
'cause
you
the-
do.
oh damn it!
Well, yeah. I mean,
It looks like a nice device.
the key caps themselves are a little bit different plastic than the body. They're like a higher strength ABS plastic. They're very strong.
Yeah.
And they are a little bit shinier than the rest of the
They'll
keyboard.
probably
but-
be more resistant to polishing
Cool.
with your fingers.
So you recommend it clearly?
Yes, if you're willing to spend the money
It's a lot of money.
and you like MX Brown.
yeah.
yeah.
All right.
Do they make it in other
Yeah.
types? Okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay. Not just brown.
Yeah, on their website, I think it comes in like red and possibly blue.
Okay.
Probably. Those are the three.
It might come in every single one. I'm not sure. I thought
Yeah.
it came in like 3 or 4.
Check that out. That review will be on the site if you want to read more of Sebastian's thoughts. If this in-depth discussion wasn't enough for you, let's move on. Last week we talked about USB 3.1 from an MSI implementation. We looked at a preview of the X99A Gaming 9 ACK motherboard. We talked about performance there.
Yep.
This week we wrote up the ASUS equivalent of this, but it's actually a little bit more interesting in that they didn't send us a new motherboard with USB 3.1 on it. They actually sent us an add-on card and then another external device, right? Because USB 3.1 devices are not common or existing yet. So they sent us the aptly named ASUS USB 3.1 card. That
Well,
that is the name.
With
that
no
will be on-
spaces?
That's what it is.
It's actually spaced out like correctly, but that's going to be the model number you're going to look for. And what's cool about this is that it's a $39 device, and not to jump to the end, but
That is, I didn't even know what the price was. Actually.
yeah, this is
Yeah.
after you were gone. $39, and the official statement from ASUS headquarters is that they're not going to lock it out of being used on other motherboards,
Right.
but it will be optimized for their platforms because of the UEFI changes that they've integrated into it.
Okay.
Right, and obviously you have the software turbo mode that will or will not work. But
Yeah.
I mean, what was your we'd already talked about USB 3.1 and what the tech differences are. What's your
Right.
take on this kind of implementation of it?
Well, I mean, I like this that you can add it because I'm kind of one of those people that actually the guys in the office give me a hard time because I usually have like a 1 or 2 generation behind motherboard.
1 or 2.
Yeah. Z87. That's what.
That's
you know.
your test
Oh,
bed.
okay.
Not
What's your
your
test bed?
computer.
What's your actual?
Oh, at home I'm on
It's like a 920.
I'm on like an
X58.
X58 board and like an i7.
Now,
Oh.
if you count generations, that's maybe 2. But
Triple
if you
channel
count
memory,
like
man.
years, it's like
But you
140.
get
Yeah.
channel
Yeah.
memory now.
I know.
So they sent us all this. You can see the add-in card here, a USB 3.1 enclosure here, and then a separate little power brick to charge enclosure. This is a prototype enclosure. It is not something that's going to be sold.
Right.
Something built specifically in order to test and evaluate and promote USB 3.1.
Yeah.
But the hardware is the same, right? Like technically, we're
Right.
looking at the same hardware, right?
But actually, and along the lines of it being prototype-ish kind of hardware, so was the MSI stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and,
yeah.
And in some of our back and forth, we figured out that because I was looking at the specs for that 1352R chip, which is the RAID controller chip that's on the device end, not the motherboard end or the host system end, and we weren't getting like what we thought should have been the scale, like the full speed, like at a higher Q depth.
Sure.
Right, compared to just some other devices, compared to what they can do with USB 3.0, right? Like we have other devices that are basically saturating USB 3.0 speed at this point. And we're like, now you got 2 SSDs on a device. It should give you double, and so should the throughput of the standard 3.1, USB 3.1. But we're not quite getting there all the way, and it turns out that they haven't necessarily enabled all of that full-blown like UASP.
UASP is not enabled on the chipset, or actually on the device. I don't know if it is on the chip, like on the controller. But
The controller can do
on the
UASP.
external USB 3.1
Yeah.
enclosure.
Yeah, right.
Doesn't have UASP enabled.
Yeah.
The chip supports it, but it's not enabled yet. And,
Yep.
We'll see what happens with as these products get sold in the market. So.
Right. So basically, the point of that is just expect to see even higher speeds than what you're seeing even on the MSI or the ASUS review.
And we actually saw, let's see, because the enclosure we have here was actually 2 mSATA 840 EVOs.
Yep.
Right. And you can see here we got it was using a Type-C connector, which was kind of interesting.
It was. We didn't see the Type-C connector on the MSI stuff.
So this is kind of a close-up.
Did you try
of the card.
plugging it in both ways?
We did.
Yeah, it works.
It did work all
Yeah,
ways.
just,
so
It still seems like a dream to me.
yeah, you're right. So this is the card close up. It's just a PCIe by 4
Yep.
card. Now you notice the temperature, the color of these USB connectors is slightly different. It is like a light blue.
Yeah.
And they did that on purpose, they said, because they wanted you, whether it's an add-on card or whether it is a motherboard that ships with USB 3.1, they want you to be able to differentiate the USB 3.1 from the USB 3.
Because it's so easy to differentiate light blue from dark blue behind your computer case.
You get a computer case with an LED light.
That's true.
So you get the one.
I mean, I agree. It's not ideal, but they got to do something. And you can't, Ken and I were sitting here talking about it. And it was like,
MSI
well,
just used red.
You can't use red because now that's MSI association. You can't
Yeah.
use white because ASUS uses it for USB flashback. You can't use yellow because
If only
that's
there were
the
more
charge,
colors.
right? But then you got like green,
Purple?
which is what Razer
Purple's
uses.
too close to blue.
Purple's pretty close to blue. You could go orange,
Well,
maybe.
purple is still much different than light blue. I mean,
But
you
Go.
know.
You could go orange, maybe.
Go with like a confetti thing, like different colors.
Yeah.
USB 3.1 FTW. Go orange.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, whatever. So when I first saw it, I thought, oh look, it's like there was
powder
an
blue, yeah.
error at the manufacturing plant, and they didn't have enough dye in the PCB manufacturing port or something like that. But anyway, so there's the enclosure, and then this is us setting it up. But the performance on this was we actually got a little bit better results.
Oh, we did, especially in what was that other configuration we were doing with their boost mode, basically.
Boost mode,
Yeah.
right? So ASUS has had since the Z87, I think, when USB 3.0 was first being released, they had something called Turbo Boost or Boost Mode, Turbo USB, I don't know. And so BOT is the standard USB transfer protocol.
Block only.
And they have way to kind of reduce some of the overhead of the communications portion of it, not the data transmission, but the communications and kind of like the acknowledge and receive.
Reduce the
thing.
latency of that.
Yeah,
part of the
and so they're
process.
able to get better results. Like, I mean, if you look at here, like you ran Addo
Yep.
with turbo mode disabled, and we got up to like 795.
Yep.
And with turbo mode enabled, you get up to like 832.
Yep. And that curve kind of climbs sooner as well.
Yes,
Like the lower,
true.
smaller block sizes actually, go
Yeah,
faster
so like if you look
sooner.
at the 8K,
Yeah.
you're looking at 155 read
Yep.
versus 8K. Oh, that's actually lower, 151.
Oh.
Well, how about 232 versus 238? Maybe it's not.
That's weird.
It's about the same. It
It
kind of
looked like it
crosses
was-
over. Yeah.
Huh.
It does get higher in like the 64, 128, 256 faster, but
Okay. Either way, I mean, it does
mean-
speed up if if the device is not UASP capable.
it's just
it does,
free speed.
It does give you
that
some
could
free
get.
speed, yeah.
Yeah.
Do they have the same controller, the MSI and the ASUS? They
Yeah,
have
it's the
ASU,
same
yeah.
chips on both ends of what we did on this test. The only difference was that the actual controller was on the motherboard on one and on a PCI Express card on another.
I thought the device side wasn't the same.
It was the same chip number.
Whatever. I didn't think that was the case.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure it's the same as media controller on all those instances. But so again, so it's the USB 3.1 card is the name. $39. That's only the card. I saw somebody in the chat room ask if it was the enclosure too. Definitely not. And then this is kind of their plans for motherboard releases. They're going to have 4 X99 boards refreshed with USB 3.1 and 4 Z97 boards refreshed with USB 3.1. Sabertooth, Z97 Deluxe, Z97 Pro, Z97A, that type of thing. And then you've got the Rampage Extreme, the X99 Deluxe Pro, and A, right? So and you can see their prices and kind of shipping
So
timeframes.
even just for ASUS, that brings the total count of Z97 boards up to about 97.
it's pretty close. It's pretty close.
Seriously.
It's a lot.
That's just for each form factor, though.
Yeah.
So there's 400.
Right. Yeah.
Different
Don't forget mini
SKUs.
ITX
That's true.
later. I don't know. Again, this is a preview, but kind of, and if you look at these boards, like keep in mind these boards are going to be 2 of these boards are going to be shipping, or 3 of them this month. Rampage 5 Extreme, X99 Pro, and the Z97 Pro are shipping this month, and then you've got a couple more on the 3rd and a couple more by mid-March. So the products are going to be out there.
Yep.
And then this card will be available in mid-March. And then we also got sent some information about a list of upcoming devices. Now this is a huge list. We're not going to roll through all of these, and all these companies I've never heard of. Akitio, AV Lab,
okay.
Godo, things like that. But then
Godo?
Godo, Godo. But you've got like High Point Tech, we know them.
Yeah.
Super Talent.
And these are basically just
Unitech.
like external like docks and stuff like that.
Well, so it's interesting. There are USB 3.1 to 2.5 inch enclosures,
okay.
SATA, right?
Yeah.
Which not necessary to be USB 3.1
That's
because
true. You're
if
not
it's a
gonna
SATA
get-
device, you're not going to saturate 3.1.
Right. You're not
but
going to
it's
get that
there.
much more speed. You'll get a little bit more compared to USB 3.0.
Right. And there's even USB 3.1 to SATA 3.5 inch, which is even less necessary
It's true.
for 3.1 as opposed to 3.
Yep.
But you get to some of the interesting ones that like aren't really listed. Like this is just High Point has a USB 3.1 device with just a model number.
Yeah.
That might be a flash drive. It could be an external hard drive with a USB 3.1 controller on it or
Right.
something. There are a couple here that are listed as like two M.2 ports or 2
Right.
MSATA ports.
And it would
maybe
be able
they
to
do
use,
RAID.
And it would, they could either do RAID, which, I mean, the prototype things we've tested were
that,
doing RAID.
right.
But that chip can also be configured just JBOD, just individual drives. So whatever you put in there, and then you can get full speed or at least close to it from both drives at the same time.
And there are a couple that list here like portable USB 3.1 portable SSD. Super Talent has one that's listed as a portable SSD.
Okay.
So curious to see what controller that uses and what its interface is.
Sure.
And then USB 3.1 to dual SATA 6G hard drive enclosure.
Okay.
Kind of interesting because you could instead of worrying about getting the maximum performance out of one drive, you have 2 drives and
Yeah.
you're getting the best possible performance you can out of them without USB 3 being a bottleneck. So
Right.
and all of these, not all of them, but a lot of them are March, April. There's a couple of
so
May.
they're
there's a couple
coming
of
kind of soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So USB 3.1 might have a quicker ramp than I kind of expected, which, hey,
That's cool.
good and stuff.
And they are pin compatible backwards.
Yes,
So, I
we
mean, you
should
don't
say that.
necessarily have to have the USB 3.1 on your motherboard. You could buy that kind of thinking, oh, I'm
You
about
might
to upgrade my
have a 3.1
motherboard soon. But, and I'll get, you still get decent speed. I mean, it's not like, it's not like, oh my
Yeah, you
goodness, I have to
tested that
step down
device
to-
on USB 3.0 port.
Right.
Right. So if you look through the review, so check out that story. It's on our website. I would read it.
Yeah.
Also reviewed out this week the Intel Broadwell NUC,
Nook.
NUC, next unit of computing. It's a Broadwell update to a device. Here's what's interesting about this hardware. If you look at it here, it's very similar to all the other NUCs that have come out.
Looks a little smaller.
It's a little bit shorter, but
Yeah.
the width height is the same. It's still like a 4x4
Yep.
motherboard. All that's the same. You're getting the all USB 3, but all last generation had USB 3.
That's true.
All of the Haswell had USB 3. You get a charging port. It's kind of a dedicated fast charge USB 3.0 port. The top of it has a replaceable lid now that didn't have before.
Fast charge USB 3 port.
The back of this is the same.
Does the fast charge port take more power than the Nook needs to run?
Yeah, it seems like it sometimes.
Basically.
Mini DP, gigabit Ethernet, 2 USB 3, and a mini HDMI upside down. That still annoys me for some reason. And inset. I don't know why that is. Kensington lock port.
Okay.
The power adapter is new. Like the power adapter is almost. I mean, it's significantly smaller than even the Nook is.
Right.
Right. It's not using much power on this. Clearly.
They built the plug into it.
Yes.
So it's going to kind of suck up.
It is a narrow plug. Like if you see this here, like
Yeah, I just wish they would
It's-
have twisted it 90 degrees. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So that it didn't.
you think?
Yeah, so it doesn't take up the next.
Oh, okay.
Well, if you're thinking about like a linear power strip,
yeah.
Well, see, we have some that have where you can rotate
our
it.
power strips are. Oh.
Where you can rotate it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, actually, the one on this desk over here, you can rotate it.
That's
And so
pretty cool.
you're right. If all of your plugs go down like that,
Yeah.
versus if they're sideways, this is perfect for it. But
Yep.
such is life. But like this picture really kind of, I think, paints a good.
sums up the size.
Of what the idea is, right? That's a 32 gig micro or SD card,
Just a regular SD card.
It's not a micro. SD card.
It's so small.
And it's about the same height as that.
Yeah.
And you get the power.
A little shorter.
It's actually a little bit shorter than it. Yeah, because we had it leaning up against that,
Yeah.
didn't you? And that's a full Core i5 5250U Broadwell with HD graphics 5500, 6000. Yeah, it's the higher end graphics.
And passive cooling completely on this one?
No, it's
Is there
active
a
cooling.
fan? Okay.
So if you, and it's a kit, it's a DIY thing, but all you really need to add now is memory and storage.
Yep.
it's got the wireless card.
Yeah, before you had to add
AC
wireless, but
by
now it's
2.
on the PCB.
Yeah,
now it's
they
on the
just built it
motherboard. They shipped it with 8 gigs of Kingston HyperX SODIMM LPDDR3, and
Just
they
a review sample, right? Like
Yeah,
just-
yeah,
normally you would
the
have to
kit
add that.
is just bare
Intel's
bones.
not going to ship anything in the box other than the Nook kit.
And the power cord,
Yeah,
which is actually
which is
interesting
good.
because they didn't used to do.
No,
it.
Yeah.
and that is
They did
That was
ship
silly.
2 SSDs, an M.2 SATA SSD 530 series, and then an M.2 PCIe Samsung XP 941.
Yep.
Which obviously significant performance difference between those 2 SSDs.
And also significant that can support either one.
Is it? Is that significant?
Well, not all M.2 ports go both ways.
Walked your way right into that one, didn't you?
Yeah. Tried to stop it, but
But you know what? You
Couldn't
still,
just train
you still
downhill.
went there.
Just let it slide in, Al.
Yes.
So, I mean, well, I'll show you on the benchmark page. There is this is, if you look at the height of it, this is kind of the normal version. There is one that will ship with an H as the last letter of the model number instead of a K,
okay.
that supports a 2.5-inch hard drive.
So is it a little taller?
It's a little taller.
Okay.
And then the 2.5-inch hard drive kind of
Yeah,
sits
because it
in
needs
the
some
top portion.
room for that.
And that's why there's this SATA cable
Okay.
here, essentially, or SATA port.
Well, you know what? This could be your next storage test bed.
I don't know. about
It's
that.
got a SATA 6 port. You just take the lid off, and you can just run benchmarks right from there.
That's true.
He
It
doesn't
gives-
really test one SSD at a
It
time.
gives
No,
you
I really
more,
don't.
more capability than you have now because you can't test M.2 SATA right now.
That's true.
Ooh.
I had to order.
Think about it.
I had to order an interposer.
You're such an interposer, Alan.
I did. I had to.
This is the back of it, so it is actively cooled.
Oh,
There's a
okay.
blower fan, but it is significantly quieter than the other ones.
Does it
we've
still
used.
spool up noticeably at load? Does it spool
It
up
doesn't
to
need to as much.
certain laptop standards
Oh,
that we're
God,
familiar
no.
with?
Oh,
No. not at all. You can see the wireless chip put down on the board right there.
Seems getting so
It's
tiny.
actually-
Is that AC?
Is it in a socket of some kind, or
No.
is it not?
No,
Oh,
it's BGA.
It's
Okay.
the M.2 BGA.
okay.
It's the soldered
7265 D2W.
So is
I know that
that
in the comments there was concern about interference when you put a card over it.
Oh no, there's plenty of clearance.
Yeah.
so? It looks to be
oh,
2
like
by
contact
2.
interference. Yeah, no, it's fine with that.
Looks to be 2 by 2 from the antenna,
Yeah, it's AC.
and it's
Yeah,
AC.
it's 2x2.
The
that's-
7265.
Here's the removable lid. You can see the removable lid. They're kind of marketing as, hey, you can make a custom lid, or some people could sell custom lids, but I don't know anybody that's doing that, and I have no confidence that will actually be the case.
At CES, they were talking about putting like an NFC reader lid on it.
Well, if you look at like the bricks that we looked at before,
oh, that was Gigabyte.
Gigabyte.
Yep.
But I mean, Intel was talking about it too.
Oh, okay.
But Gigabyte kind of said, "Oh, well, we'll do that as well." Like they have a model that has NFC in it, so that's an idea, and you could, in theory, do that. There's like a USB port that you have access to. You know, once you take that lid off and stuff, it's possible.
And as a cool aside, they post just like publicly on the support page the CAD and 3D models for the lid. So if you have a 3D
you can just
printer,
print your
you can
own
print
lid.
your own.
Yeah, if you have a 3D printer, you
Which
can
is really cool.
design it and draw a wiener on it or something, whatever you kids do these days, and then put that on top of your computer and give it to your parents for Christmas. That's what Sebastian.
It makes a great gift idea.
Surprise. Performance-wise, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. Worth noting, the BRICS BRICS S, the BX i7 H5500, used a Broadwell Core i7 part. The Nook uses a Core i5 Broadwell. The processors on the BRICS are faster, so all of our CPU benchmarks show the BRICS a little bit ahead of the Nook right here. Like here's Sandra, your multimedia scores. But if you look at the Broadwell i5 against the Nook from Haswell, which was also i5, 4250 to 5550, essentially the same processor, but the other stepping up, it's a little bit faster. On the GPU side, the Broadwell Nook is actually using a higher end GPU than the BRICS, based on Broadwell. It's very confusing. So the
Is it
i7
an Iris Pro?
no.
No,
No, it's
nice.
HD 6000 versus HD 5500 is what the
Okay.
difference is.
So a few more.
Just a couple more shader path, shader blocks, execution units,
Yeah,
as Intel
EUs,
calls them.
a little bit higher clock.
So,
maybe
so the
or something?
graphics is graphics is a little bit faster on the Nook, but the processor is a little bit slower, right? So at the end of the day,
really
it's
weird.
it's kind of odd. Storage testing, great. SATA, the M.2 SATA, we got up to 540 megs,
Yep.
and M.2 PCIe up to like 1 gig per second, essentially 1.07 gigs per
That
second.
XP941 is no joke.
When you hear that, when you see that result, and you look at the device that it's in, it's
Yeah.
kind of like, well, that might be overkill for that particular piece of hardware.
It's like faster than the desktop
Right.
it's sitting next to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Power consumption, 6.8 watts at idle, 20 watts under CPU load.
This is why I don't really get. I understand using your latest gen parts, but Broadwell, you're not going to see a big performance increase.
No, I mean,
And it's
you're
a
just,
device you plug into the wall.
it's just lower power, so it can run fans at lower speeds, and
Yeah.
they got to
Yeah,
do something.
that's important.
It's $369 for the kit. That's the MSRP. And then as we configured it, $630. So I will say it's not a budget part. It's not a budget system.
Yeah.
It's not, even though it's tiny, it's not inexpensive.
You're paying a little bit for the tiny.
You essentially have all the hardware of an Ultrabook
Yeah.
in a box, in a tiny little square.
And Ryan, think way back, that first Nook that you got and Ken played with. Mm-hmm. The distance that this form factor has come is insane. Because that was one of the crappy original Atoms that just really couldn't do anything but got really, really warm.
They did have an Atom one, but the first one out was Ivy Bridge.
I think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
was it?
I think Ivy Bridge.
Is that the one that kept shutting down on you guys for the heat?
That wasn't the processor
No, it
issue. That
wasn't.
was a SSD
Yeah.
with wireless. That's where people are getting the idea. Like when those two
yeah.
things were making contact and it overheated
they
and it
put
caused the wire. It caused the. Did it cause the wireless to
Drop out.
drop out or
Yeah.
something?
The
I think?
heat from the SandForce controller on the MSATA SSD.
that was also
included.
the last Nook that they had a Thunderbolt port on.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So remember, never use a SandForce controller as a heatsink.
SandForce controller. Yeah. It draws half a watt like at
I mean,
idle.
Here's a neat comparison pic. This is the new Broadwell Nook. This is the original Ivy Bridge Nook, and that does not support a hard drive. in there. So you can see like they made it that's smaller.
Yeah.
Right? And this is the bricks with Broadwell that does support a hard drive in there as well. So it's a neat little device that.
So like how much is the actual Ultrabook that has those same specs and that same hardware?
I mean, you're probably talking $900.
okay, so it's
At
still
least.
so you're
little
still
more.
paying more for that same
Well,
hardware.
see, like that XPS 13 starts at $899,
okay.
right?
I was just
Yeah.
concerned that are you paying more for that than you would be?
You know, it's so you've got to go a couple $300 more expensive, but then you're getting a
Okay.
chassis and a display and a keyboard
Also true.
and stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
Depends on what you want.
Trade-offs.
Yeah.
You could skimp more on the memory. You could go 4 gigs of memory. You could use 1 DIMM. You could,
It's true.
you could do other things. So, okay, let's see if I can do this without Josh here.
Oh no.
AMD Chorizo sausage processors.
Yes.
That's what Josh would say here, right?
Sausage? Down the hallway.
Chorizo?
Chorizo sausage processors.
Chorizo down the
Down the hallway.
entryway.
We have to try to be like Josh now. Yeah.
So AMD, so ISSCC, which I'm not going to try to remember what that is the acronym for anymore.
International
Solid State Circuits Conference.
Consortium or
No, it's Solid State Circuits Conference. International. Yeah, look at that. I don't know. I could be wrong.
There you go.
This is where companies go. They don't really necessarily go to announce products. They talk about papers, but then they kind of are talking about new
They
products.
talk about
as
the
they go.
technology in their products, right? Like
Right,
new
so-
flash memory technology will be announced at this thing. And
AMD was talking about Carrizo, which is their kind of next generation mainstream performance APU and sausage.
Yes.
And to be honest with you, Josh wrote about this at CES in January as well. We had kind of talked about a lot about this. This is the quote next generation performance APUs with full HSA capability. It's also the first core that's going to have. It's also the first processor to use the new Excavator core optimized for low power. This is not a desktop part. This is a
Okay.
notebook part. It also has the a generation ahead of GCN graphics in here as well. Not a whole lot of detail, but it does say Mantle DX12 support, dual graphics, things we would expect there. And it is AMD's first single chip integration with the South Bridge onto a single die. That's not even something Intel doesn't do that right now either.
Right.
Like if you look at that picture of the Broadwell, you've got two chips. You've got the processor die with the memory controller and PCIe, and then you've got the South Bridge chip
yeah.
on there. Same substrate, but different die.
And they're putting them on the same die.
This is going to be on the same die. I don't benefits,
Well,
I'm sure
Intel-
there are benefits there, but Intel's able to use different foundries.
yeah, Intel splits them because it's totally different like process node between the
For
two
them,
usually.
it is.
Yeah.
That doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't.
It's just a matter of what the trade-off is.
Yeah.
So AMD is going down that road, and then it is the HSA optimized there. So Excavator is an interesting core design. Clearly they're claiming 23% area reduction and lower power in the same 28 nanometer technology. It is a 28 nanometer processor still. There's no node changes this time around. And they give you some idea of like what Steamroller is and then how much smaller they were able to make it while not sacrificing performance, but getting a little bit better power out of there too. And then lower power optimized graphics, 18% leakage reduction, always good. So let's see what else we have here from Josh's write-up. Voltage adaptive operation, low noise voltage to high performance CPUs, GPUs, and APUs.
This is a silly bit where they've got about 8 sensors per core.
Oh,
I'm trying to
okay.
remember. 10 modules per core sensing the heat and the power. It's ridiculously accurate power savings. So VDroop is not going to be a thing because it's already on top of it and is downclocking as this is happening
AVFS.
and then jumping back up again.
Yeah, reliably extract the true silicon speed capability of the CPU enables accurate setting of the optimal operating point for a given power or performance level across processes. I am curious, like, what Intel's equivalent of this is.
I mean, I imagine they have one.
Yeah, like, I don't
think they publish it very much.
Well, I don't. It sounds bad to say. Like, I don't think
that
this-
they're not doing it.
the Intel's not doing this.
Right.
Then, if AMD is doing this in their architecture, but
Well, they are, but I don't think to this extent. And you've also got a brand new sleep state too.
Oh, yeah.
SOI 3.
but I think
S3
Intel's
is
had
gone.
that. I think SO, it's SOIX. Intel's introduced with Haswell, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it's nice that AMD has that. And then they're kind of getting into that. I don't know. Like we talked about these parts at CES. We saw some performance demonstrations. You know, obviously the demos that they're doing are always going to be positive.
Yeah.
It's hard to see with Intel releasing 14 nanometer parts in this exact same market, and AMD trying to release a 28 nanometer part onto the same market, targeting the same system builds and sizes. It's I'm not saying they can't do it, but it's a significant deficit that they have to overcome to be able to do that. And they haven't proven recently that their CPU team can do that.
Yep.
I mean, look, you can put fancy graphs up here like this that show energy efficiency from Richland to Kaveri to Carrizo. Notice that this has there's no labels here on the other side, right? Any dotted lines that go up into anything are always to be questioned. And they have good feature additions that they're having here. The end product is Carrizo here. Interframe power gating sounds interesting. Voltage adaptive frequency scaling we were talking about. But they need to actually build a product on it.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
So it looks good on paper, basically.
I mean, yeah, and that's their job, is to make things look good on paper.
Yeah.
So, well, Josh will be here next week. I'll have him add anything else that he wants to add about AMD sausage processors. I think everybody should name their processors after food from
Sausage.
now
Instead of bulldozers and construction gear.
Yeah.
Rivers.
Yeah.
on.
Towns,
Real short note here. I don't have any content necessarily from it, but we did post an interview with Bohemia Interactive's project lead. Oh man, Joris Jan Vantlan.
Joris Jan Vantland.
There you go. See,
Okay.
let the Canadian say it. An
I think
interview.
he's Dutch, actually.
Ian Cummings, one of our 4 members who will likely be at the PCPer VLAN on Saturday, conducted the interview over email. If you're interested in ArmA 3, kind of their direction in terms of whether or not they're going to have a 64-bit executable, what they think about the claims that the game is unoptimized and runs poorly on a wide array of hardware, all those answers are in here in some degree. You know, DLC questions, all that stuff. I've still not really spent enough time
I'll
on
probably
this
try
game.
and post a screenshot of what I use for the modifiers for my launcher, which do enable multi-cores, give you the different memory controller, and generally do make it a bit better.
Does the game look as good to you as these screenshots make it look to me?
Yeah, seriously.
That's impressive as hell.
It's
Plus,
freaking
look, I got
pretty.
drones.
You're going to be hard-pressed to hit 60 frames. But then again, it's pretty. But it's not just that. It's far more of a military simulator than a shooter game. It's no Battlefield.
Does that mean you have to like go through like the recruitment office and then like basic training?
They actually
Go
have
down to
like
your local
this
map
whole thing,
center.
although it's the future, so it's a VR room.
Oh, okay.
And if you can't pass that,
Of
well,
course
no
it's the
one's going
future.
to want to play with you ever.
All right, on to the news this week. Let's see. Amazon and Newegg offering partial refunds on GTX 970s,
Yep.
apparently. And I'm just going to throw that pen on the ground because
Yeah, it's hit or miss.
So everybody knows about the GTX 970 issues. We're all well aware,
Talked about it several times.
many times. And I got some emails sent to me. It's like, hey, I was able to get Amazon to give me 20% back.
With like screenshots of the
With like,
chat.
it's either
Conversation.
screenshots or logs of chats
Yeah.
that people have had with their Amazon. And they pointed me to a Reddit thread where people were doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And then, people are talking about, well, Newegg gave me a 20% gift card. They didn't give me cash back, but they gave me a gift card. And
Which is fine.
Micro Center
A
apparently did
couple of
that.
guys were told, here's a free return label, ship it back, and we'll give you a full refund.
Yeah, well after the return policy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm of 2 minds about this. One, I still don't honestly believe that it's a necessary action, right? I still believe that the card is performing where it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
But whatever. Clearly there are people that disagree with me and paid hard-earned dollars for their card, and now they're upset about it and whatever. I don't have an issue with them going and asking for these partial refunds if they legitimately have felt that they were being shorted in some way. But what I think is going to happen is
People are just
I
going to
write
jump on the
stories
bandwagon.
like this. You jump on the bandwagon, you go to Amazon, and
Yeah.
you're suddenly just getting $112 back because you can, or $75 back
Well.
because you can. And I understand it. Like, I was in college once, and $100 would be a huge amount of money. But I'm kind of worried about like who's going to pay for this at the end of the day. If enough people are doing this, Amazon will either cut it off completely, which I would bet that they have. Maybe they haven't. I should check these threads more recently.
Do you think that's still within their margin? Like,
Oh, no. 20% on a graphics card might be in NVIDIA's margin,
So
but
why
it's
wouldn't-
definitely not an Amazon's
so why
margin.
wouldn't they just do the refund instead?
Who?
Amazon or
Well, because these people are saying they don't want to return the product, but they feel cheated because the product wasn't as advertised.
okay.
There are some people that are doing the full return, and I don't have a problem with that.
I'm just surprised that the partial refund would be like to put them negative, as opposed to
Amazon does it as they do that stuff all the time. It's a goodwill gesture towards a customer.
Okay.
Right.
If you have the right person
Yep.
in chat or a phone.
Yeah.
Right.
You probably.
There are some
depends on
people
them.
saying they were being denied. Some people who are saying they were being very successful. Some people at Newegg, Amazon seemed to be mostly successful. Newegg seemed to be about 50-50 when I was looking last week.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, any
Well,
thoughts?
you
Go ahead,
get the
Jeremy.
choice of either a guy comes away saying this was awful, I didn't get my free shit, or oh, these guys are awesome. I'm going to go back there every time because they give me 20% off of something and I get to keep it.
For Amazon, sure.
Yeah.
But like, so do you think a user who went to Amazon got 20% back? Do you think it changes their opinion of NVIDIA?
Probably not. Honestly.
No, it changed their opinion of Amazon.
Yeah.
All of this is kind of opportunistic, like you said. It's because they're offering this.
Yeah.
Like,
once one person gets it and they talk about it, now
it's not like they feel so indignant about this. Like the X70 buyer is still the X70 buyer.
Right.
There were the 470 and the 570 and the 670 buyer who said, "Look, this gets me more than 80% of the way to the flagship card, and look how much money I'm saving."
Yeah.
The 970 is more than $200 less than the 980,
Yep.
and it gets you more than 80% of the way there. And if
Yep.
it had said 3.5 on the box, then they would be like, yeah, you know what? You don't even notice the difference.
Nobody
Like,
would've- yeah.
The resolutions I play at, I don't even need 4 gigs. This
Right.
is so much better. This is a better deal. You're a fool if you buy the 980.
Exactly.
And then this comes out, and suddenly there's just indignation and
They're like, oh, you can get money? Oh,
and in the
okay.
past, the 970 like would have been just accepted as this is the cut down card. This is the card with something disabled. So you're missing a little bit from the flagship that they, something in binning, and they make another product out of it, and it's significantly less expensive.
Yeah.
If this card was priced $100 less, then maybe I understand. But you bought this card to save money, and you did.
$100 more, you mean? If this card was $100 more.
Right?
saying-
Yeah, I meant like $100 less. than
$100
the
less than a 980.
Oh, okay.
If-
okay.
I mean, and then you're talking about, well, at that price.
Even
then
then, I still don't think it would have changed people's opinion because there still would have been the mindset of I was told something and then I was
Right,
given
like the
something
fact you have
else.
to resort to trying specifically to run benchmarks a certain way. Look, I can do it. I can do it if I do this and this at this resolution that I can't
Yeah.
even play at because it's a slideshow.
I mean, Ryan really had to crank stuff up to replicate.
And,
Oh,
but to be
just screw
clear,
with it. And I mean, I'd almost jump to the last news story, which is tied directly in with this. It's sad that the argument
we
was
can't
over
do
the
that
RAM
because it's so far down on the
that's
rundown.
legally provable.
yeah, that's the
If you were
thing.
complaining about the ROPS and the L2 cache, hey, I'm fully behind you. That's actually an argument. That was improper advertising. That was a screw up on NVIDIA's part.
Right.
But there is technically 4 gigs of RAM on that
Yeah.
card.
so anyway, we'll talk about the
Yeah. Well,
lawsuit crap a little bit later, but anyway, people have been doing that, and I just was curious about it and wrote a story about it, and it was a big story as some of these 970 issues have become.
All of them.
Even though it was no particular big deal. And then also, as a follow-up to what Jeremy talked about last week in terms of mobile overclocking, they have re-enabled that feature. Jeremy, what are your thoughts on that?
I am more than a little amused by this. It's kind of nice to see them backing away from saying, hey, you know what? If you want to fully do this, you want to void your warranty, you want to play this way, all right, fine. Go ahead and do it. It's also an interesting comment on NVIDIA's drivers, because they're now pushing out a driver almost every new game that comes out. And this is a big thing for them because they do optimize it. They'll set up your SLI profiles.
Right.
They will tweak the individual game settings based on the card that you have right in their GeForce Experience app. So if you go back a couple of drivers just to be able to enable overclock, you lose out on a lot of this. So by enabling this going forward, it's sort of saying, hey, and I hope that there is a little bit of legalese in those documents saying it's not our fault if the damn laptop starts to melt, but if you want to do it, do it.
Yeah, so it will be enabled in the next driver coming out in March, I guess. And I do like to claim that we had some impact on this because we complained so heavily on Wednesday on it on the podcast, and then somehow Thursday afternoon they announced that it would be going back into the driver after significant discussion.
Well,
so
I couldn't have done that good a job because I didn't get an email from Pelly.
well, see, I think he's the kind of guy that would have been on our side on that, right? So he would have taken our opinion to people to try to make something good happen.
Now everybody.
And if I'm wrong, Sean, I apologize. You're a good man.
It's not just mobile. Think about it. What if you have an all-in-one PC that has a mobile GPU in it?
That's true.
Now you too can overclock your all-in-one PC,
To make it
so
really
it
loud.
runs even hotter than it already does.
So does the same kind of
But
disclaimer?
you should be able to do that.
Does the same kind of disclaimer apply to just overclocking a desktop GPU as well?
I mean,
Isn't it the same disclaimer? I mean, isn't
Probably.
it basically
It always
all
used
the
to
same?
be. It's not so much anymore.
Right. So, but it's just
well,
like
I think they build so many safety precautions into the hardware that they're not really concerned about you killing your GPU anymore.
right. But that should also still apply to even
Yeah, no,
the
I think it
mobile
will.
GPU.
I think
Yeah.
it will. You may hit those things
Sooner.
Sooner, yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, at the end of the day, it's
Yeah, you're not going to get the same overclock,
no.
you know, that you
No, you're
might get
not,
on a
for sure.
desktop part with big honking cooler on it and everything. Yeah.
Although, as Tom proved, AMD is the opposite. If you rip off every piece of heat spreader, those CPUs will actually catch fire.
That was a long time
Still
ago.
haven't forgiven
That
him
was a
for
long
that.
time ago. It was a long time ago.
I still haven't forgiven him for that.
Samsung promises another fix for the 840 Evo.
Yeah.
So we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I guess it's been now, about people seeing a return of performance drops in their 840s.
Yeah. Yeah. They don't slow down as far as they
And
did
we
the first time.
supplied them with some information,
and an SSD.
some hardware,
Yep.
showing that the exact thing was happening again. And they came back with what exactly?
A statement,
Okay.
which are words to the effect of that they're going to. They're still trying to come up with the absolute fix for it.
Yeah.
It's not there yet. Now, I think the reason I think they're confused about it, for the same reason even I'm confused, is that their fix was supposed to fix all of the drives, and it only seems to have fixed about half of them, or roughly half of them, right? Because we've seen like about 50% of the reports, people telling us, or even on forums, they'll be like, oh, I'm seeing it again. Here's my speed. Old files are down to 250 meg per second. Still faster than what used to be like 50 to 100 meg per second, but it's still a slowdown, right?
Sure.
And then the other half of people, roughly half, are like, I ran the same kind of test on my drive. I updated it right when the update came out. Look, here it's going full speed still.
Was
So,
the update destructive or non-destructive?
It was non-destructive.
I wonder
it-
if the half who had
No, it rewrote.
Success.
It rewrote everything. It was part of the process.
It was not always non-destructive. We had to kill a drive.
We had one brick.
Well,
Out
what I'm
of
saying is,
four.
say you just
Supposed to.
Wow.
say you were
Well,
willing to reinstall Windows and you start over from scratch, and that you just backed up your files and blew away the drive, and then did it as like completely destructive
Sure.
with zero data on the drive, like wrote the drive to zero.
But unless you secure erased it, like
That's
in
true.
there, you really like that
Still the same
updater.
thing.
Yeah, it still basically did the same thing, right? It just it worked a little bit harder if you had data in place, as opposed to just drive being empty. But it's still
Because they had to move things and shuffle them.
Yeah.
To, move clean, move clean, move clean,
yeah,
move clean.
It basically played
Yeah.
musical chairs while it was doing its process, but it basically did some kind of a recalibration or realigning of metadata for all the flash.
I'm just wondering why it was certain people saw.
Well, that's the thing,
fix and
and it might be down to like just batches of manufacture and how
could be.
like if they updated the type of something about the flash memory itself, and maybe their fix was only really effective on the newer ones versus the older ones. Because what we noticed is our original samples for our original 840 Evo reviews all happened to be the same drives that were showing the slowdown again. And all of the drives that either Josh had one, Maury had one, I had another one in the laptop. Those were all drives that we had gotten after, like a few months after release. Those did not seem to be slowing down, right? So, but who knows what the real answer is, right? But they're trying to figure this out. And in the meantime, they're considering releasing...
Toodles.
Yeah. They're considering releasing an update to Magician.
What do you mean they're considering?
Well, it's like...
They say they're considering or they are?
Well, it hasn't happened yet, so nothing's for certain.
Do
but that's
or
what's
do
in their
not.
statement, is that they intend to update Magician.
Okay. So they're not considering it. They are going to do it.
All right, I have a follow-up question, Alan.
Yes.
Can a future firmware update actually change the hardware inside the drive?
Well, it's
No.
firmware.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
No.
but like,
the
Can you
joke. Get it?
download
No.
more channels?
So, but no, it does
No,
say
but-
Samsung will release an updated version of the Samsung SSD Magician software in March that will
Yeah.
include a performance restoration tool. So you just run it whenever your shit starts to slow.
I think it might just kind of do it. Like, I think it just might be
Lubrication
like...
for the drive.
Were you not concerned about life of the SSD every time you ran that utility? Because back then, well, back when it originally came out, you could only run it once. I was like, well, why wouldn't they
Right.
let you just rerun it again and again and again? And it was lifetime of the drive.
Well, if you ran it, like, I mean, you get roughly 1,000-ish cycles on TLC flash. And every time you run it, it would eat up one cycle,
Okay.
right? So that's still... You could still run
But
it
if you were saying
kind
if
of
it
a
was
lot.
running it continuously,
But it is wasteful to just like, I don't mean continuously, like maybe it does like, every couple of months it would do it, or it would only maybe selectively do it on stale data. Who knows how they're actually going to
Sure.
do it, right? But it kind of comes across to me in their wording of their statement, and they haven't answered follow-on questions that I asked them, but it comes off as if like they intend to still be able to, like they would want to just have them all just fixed and not need a kind of a band-aid, which is what
Well, sure.
which is what Magician doing that kind of a process periodically is just a band-aid.
so you'd have to have
right?
software installed in your system, though.
You'd have to have the Magician software,
Right.
which comes with a lot of other benefits too. Like a lot of people just run Magician.
But I don't. But there's a lot of people that just don't run it at all.
That's true, and you shouldn't have to.
I would
right?
agree with that.
You shouldn't like be
It goes back to
required to.
Sebastian's point about having a firmware change the
Yeah,
Plus, it's on a
die.
It's on a what are those things? The round.
discs.
Yes.
CDs.
Turntables?
They're called CDs. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Those things, and a lot of computers don't have those.
Well, what's on the round disk? What?
Software.
Well, you don't need the
Magician
CD.
software.
I know, but I'm just saying. Then you have to go to the website and find it, and
Oh.
it's just creating a barrier to entry.
Well, that's true. That's true. But I'm like, I mean, same argument for that performance
Let me ask you
restoration
this:
tool.
you don't think they're actually going to figure out what this is, right?
I kind of do.
You
I
think?
just don't think it's going to happen
Like they're not going to
in
fix
another
it.
month.
But right. But I mean, they're going to release a tool that's going to let you run the thing and fix the performance.
Yep.
That seems easy. But they're not going to fix it because it's an 840 and they're already at the 850. And
Maybe, but they're
You
kind
move
of getting
on.
a lot of flack for it.
So
you know the
And-
best way to get rid of a problem.
Well, yeah. and they
Throw money
I'd
at
love
it?
to have one of these
They
drives
could- they
because
could
one of the
do-
commenters mentioned,
Yeah.
what if you run a defrag on it?
Oh,
Yeah, you're sending the life of the
Oh.
drive, but then again, this tool is doing. I'm just curious. I've never seen.
I bet it fixes it.
Well, the defrag would only
It's rewriting everything.
defragment fragmented files.
Oh, so if it's not fragmented, it would leave it alone.
It would-
If it's,
yeah.
But does the defrag
Contiguous
utility
files.
see all SSD content as fragmented?
No,
Probably.
it only sees it logically.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, that's true.
It only sees what Windows sees. So it would have no idea. And it's not that
But-
the files are fragmented that's what's causing us to be slow.
No, I
it's
know.
that the cells have just
Aging.
drifted slightly just due to time,
Yeah.
and it's just not compensating correctly.
it's what the
for
T
that.
in TLC stands for, is time.
Well, no.
Not tender.
Because the controller
Time
between
lost
the
cells.
840 Pro and the Evo is the same, right?
Basically.
But
There's slight differences, but yeah.
But I mean, like in firmware, probably, or is it the same silicon? Is it
It's
the same?
firmware. It's like they have similar silicon, or like
But
the
the
same
big
silicon
difference
that goes
between
across,
Evo and Pro was MLC versus TLC, right?
yeah, and SLC cache on with the TLC and stuff
Right.
like that, right?
I wonder if now the SLC part. Is there a way to find out if that slows at the same rate as the MLC?
There's no way you would ever know because
It's also way
that's just
faster.
a rolling cache, and it's so
Yeah.
fast. Yeah. Not only that, but like even if this happened on MLC, like chances are it wouldn't slow to the point where you would get lower than the SATA bottleneck right? Like it wouldn't slow so badly. Like usually you're just riding the saddle button like on read speeds anyway, right?
It's got to be some kind of firmware thing because there's so many drives out there with ML or with TLC now that this would be like an industry wide thing. Don't you
There's
think?
not a lot. There really isn't a lot.
Aren't some of the higher capacity, inexpensive drives using TLC?
No,
the,
they don't just
cheap
switch.
Crucial drives and the.
They're MLC. They
Really?
don't just switch midline like that. Like
Controller
this
rate
higher
has to change a lot.
Yeah, the Apple did that with the iPhone 6s, and that's why people were having weird issues with
Oh, that's right.
128
They had to
gig.
switch back to MLC.
Yeah, but that was just for higher
Apple doesn't
but
do that.
they're the only ones that did a weird thing like that. Regular SSD lines don't tend to do that.
So-
but I think it's just a matter of something where they didn't anticipate some kind of configuration of like maybe hypothetically their older batches of flash, and their original attempt at a fix is just not correctly doing what it was meant to do to it. Right?
We'll see.
Yeah.
If nothing else, wait. If you have performance issue, then the idea is sometime in March they'll release a tool that will let you restore it, even if it is another temporary fix until they figure out.
Yeah.
I just want to see
Actual
somebody
fix.
totally screw with one of these that's got degraded performance.
That's what we do.
Defrag
what
the
we-
damn thing. Do a governmental wipe on the damn thing. Just see, does it have any effect whatsoever?
Well, what do you mean? No. Here's the thing. As soon as you write to any of those areas that slowed down, it's full speed again.
Correct.
But
I'm just curious to see someone actually do benchmarks on this. I've never seen it on any other site.
that's the thing. You can't really benchmark it because you would have to only read.
As soon as you alter any of the data,
Yeah.
you're immediately sending the problem.
Right.
fixing
As soon
the
as you
problem.
have written to any part that was slowed down, that
You're
port,
fixing the problem.
that part is no longer slowed down.
Solving the problem.
It's
Solving
automatically
the
solving the problem. Just
Well,
use
but-
the drive.
I get it, but that's why nobody's published a specific.
take
like,
your Windows
you know-
folder and copy it to C:/Windows old.
Oh no!
And then copy it
No.
back and override
On-
all of your Windows files.
no,
and
no,
you're
no.
fine.
Critical machine.
You're gonna
Yeah.
make me cry because you don't know how many times I've actually seen
Just
people
copy
do
it,
that.
copy it to
But not for
copy it to your
SSD
other
reasons.
external USB drive, and then copy it back, and it'll be fine.
Wow.
Just Control A.
And feng shui your
Drag.
DLL files because they should all be in
See,
the
Ken
same
knows I'm
spot.
right. Ken's over there. He's like, why wouldn't that work?
So
Why
actually,
wouldn't it work?
while we're on this, I should bring this up really quick. Somebody I had an email conversation with someone
up.
in the past week. They mentioned like, hey, why not run SpinRite? It basically, if you run it at like level 4, it reads and writes. And that's what it does.
You
It
know
does.
what?
It would read and write the entire drive.
But
But
does SpinRite 6 see?
it doesn't pay attention to trim or any of that other.
No, but I'm saying like the interface. Like SpinRite 6 can see SATA,
Yep.
but it.
It's basically just SATA.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's why you shouldn't do that. Okay, even if you're on at level 4 and theoretically it only does one read and one write across the entire thing, so you should only burn one cycle of the flash, hopefully, right? It doesn't do any kind of trimming, and it doesn't pay attention to what files are actually there and where there's empty space. So you don't need to rewrite the empty space. So now you're just wasting. Like if your drive was only half full, you just rewrote the whole drive for no reason.
You're wasting a
because-
flash cycle on the data that doesn't need to have a flash cycle. Right?
You're doing that. And then on top of that, since it didn't trim the drive, it has now allocated the whole drive completely when it ran. And now you boot back into Windows, and the SSD operates as if it has to pay attention to all of the data everywhere on the drive. Which means it has less extra flash to shuffle stuff around. Usually an SSD has some free trimmed area, right? And you actually wear out the flash slower than you would if the entire thing was full and it had to juggle
How old's that
data
tool?
around. SpinRite?
That's a rather
Oh, it's-
personal question, isn't it?
Old. It's really old. but it's just
I don't know
that,
what came with.
it's just that when you run it on an SSD,
No, that's what I'm
it's
saying.
not, yes, it is more dated than like trim and that sort of stuff. It's not meant, to
Yeah,
deal
it's
with
not meant
that
to deal with
stuff,
that
right?
type of tech. It wasn't built for
Yeah,
that.
that doesn't mean that it might, there are cases where if you had like a bad sector or something on an SSD, it might be lucky and coax the SSD into getting it back. It's possible, just because it's running at a very low level and not with Windows, and not Windows will just time something out where SpinRite is running at DOS level. It wouldn't let the drive time out, that kind of thing.
DOS
But-
level. Are
So
you
it has
serious?
its perks, but for this specific issue on an 840 Evo, none of the data, nobody said that like I couldn't read a sector. It's just that it was slow.
Sure,
So
sure. No,
so
that's fine.
SpinRite is not the right answer for that specific case, I will say.
Moving on. GPU market share.
Yeah.
Good for NVIDIA, bad for AMD.
It's true.
So John Petty Research, one of the research houses that comes out with a lot of stuff on kind of like the discrete enthusiast markets, released data last week that showed, if you look at this column here, this is Q4 2013, and this is Q4 2014. And if you look, you can kind of see how this comparison goes. AMD actually dropped from last year, from the end of 2013 to the end of 2014, 11% market share. And guess who gained 11%?
Well, gee.
Matrox.
Market share. Matrox, no, good try. A good try. In fact, Matrox lost 0.1%, also to NVIDIA.
Oh,
Out of their
EDFX.
out of
So they're down to a mathematical 0.00%, which is not quite
It's just
zero.
a theoretical number.
It's just a theoretical number.
They lost.
I
In
only
reality, dozens of people are actively using this every day.
I only rounded 2 decimal points
Okay.
with the data,
All right.
so you get what you
yeah.
get. So
It's a thing in
NVIDIA,
APAC. What
Yeah.
can I say?
NVIDIA went from 64.9 to 76% market share. So the current market share in discrete graphics is 76 NVIDIA, 24 AMD.
What is that in basis points?
What do you come up?
Matrox measures their market share in basis points.
It's
Which is people?
It's like 100.
I think it's like the hundredth
Yeah.
Yeah.
or the thousandth. I don't know.
So
It's down there.
that is bad news for AMD in particular, right? Good news for NVIDIA, I guess. That counts as a 20-point change in market share, right? Where you went from one guy gaining 11 and one guy
you add
losing
them together,
11,
that's how that
right?
works?
You're talking about a 20-point change.
The
That's
problem is,
significant.
what was the last new AMD card? The 285?
Yeah, and that wasn't
Was it
really
295X2
new.
After, I know, but I mean,
But-
like it's just a new model number. to
290,
put out on the
290X.
market.
Well, no, 285 was new. You're right. That was a Tonga GPU. So it was.
So-
but if you look at market share
That's-
stuff, it's not very.
Wasn't
very
that
high
the
new.
very beginning of 2014 that came out, or the very end of 13? It may have been
Early
like,
2014, I think.
like January or something. And that's it. And for the whole year, the
What's-
existing model numbers are all you could see on Newegg or Amazon or anywhere.
What's so depressing about this, in reality, is that over the course of 2014, AMD had very good parts. They had performance per dollar advantages in almost every position.
Yep.
They did game bundles
Yeah,
and promotions,
really good ones.
Yeah.
right? Maybe they weren't as good in 2014 as they were in 2013, but they did game bundles.
I bought my
when NVIDIA was not.
X in like November, like a few months
With
ago.
that bundle.
And I got like 3 games,
Yep.
and I got like
And the net result of this is that they lost 10% market share throughout the year.
So what's wrong?
They just need new product. Like, so here's the thing. Like, NVIDIA didn't really release that much new stuff either. You had the 970 and 980, and that was a huge boon starting in September. But it didn't start until September. Okay? And they didn't get, I mean,
And
if
it
you look at
wasn't all-
Q3,
Yeah, look at the middle.
they were at 71%. So between Q3 and Q4, they gained another 5%. So
Yeah.
they had already gained 6 or 7%
now
on the
is
way
this
up.
based on usage or is this based on unit sales?
sales.
Okay,
Sales.
so this does not count mobile GPUs at all, or does it? Do they count the GPU in the laptop
I
as like
don't
one unit
know.
sold? Because there's no
No, I
presence.
was-
It's only discrete.
there's
so
no
it's not
discrete
Intel.
presence
Yeah, there's no discrete in this at all.
Yeah, but I don't think
'cause
that-
Intel's none of it.
in,
I don't
in
think that's-
mobile
that's
with
fair.
AMD. So I mean, by default,
Or it's
any laptop with a discrete
integrated.
GPU
Yeah.
would be a
This is
pick for
add-in
NVIDIA.
board. This is the add-in board report, so it doesn't take.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
So-
only the.
What does that
'cause
count?
GPUs
MXM?
become a
'Cause
very
that's an add-in board.
strange definition nowadays, but so they had
Yeah.
to do an add-in board.
Right,
report
because of
now.
integrated
Okay.
graphics and all that stuff,
All right.
it complicates things.
I guess
but-
I could have. Was it in the article? I could have. I guess. Right.
yeah, if you just RTFA, we would have got past this.
Well, all
I-
you can
I
read
don't-
is the header.
Thanks,
The
Sebastian.
actual article will cost you about 10 grand.
I don't know what to say about this because we don't believe it or not. Even if you're an NVIDIA fan, you don't want this trend to continue. You don't want NVIDIA to not have competition, significant competition in the
You
market.
don't want this to be a mirror of,
For example-
Intel AMD on the CPU side.
Correct.
There's no
For example,
competition.
I was going through my office today and there was a dry erase board hanging up, and it was from.
Great story so far.
Pull up the picture. I will pull up the picture. What year? Somebody look up. What year did the 295 come out? The GeForce 295.
295 wasn't
Yep.
that 2008?
I don't know the answer, so I'm asking you. 295.
295.
Where did I put that picture?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was. This is a dry erase board that is very old.
Where was this dry erase board again?
In my office.
It's
at my
no
house.
longer a dry erase
January
board.
2009.
January
That's awesome.
2009.
Time warp. 5
I'm gonna
years
have to
ago.
look it up on my Twitter feed here.
What architecture was 295? Was that Fermi?
No,
That wasn't until
it was
400
before
too.
Fermi.
What was before
I
Fermi?
don't know what they called it.
G80
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
or something like that.
Yep.
So here's
Was that the same as like the GT?
here's this picture. Okay,
800?
it's no longer a dry erase board. It's just a board because it's been.
It's a
Okay.
dried
Sharpie.
board.
Yeah, let me zoom in a little bit here. Okay, and here's what's interesting. The GTX 295 was a dual GPU card, right? The 4870X2 was a dual GPU card. Look at the prices of those cards in 2009. The 295 was $589. It was a dual GPU card.
Right.
The highest end single GPU card was a 285, and it was $329. On the
Holy
AMD
crap.
side, the 4870X2 was $369. 2 GPUs. And
Yeah.
the 4890 single highest end GPU they had there was $229. This was
Oh,
for
that brilliant time between the $1,000 GPU flagships. Because they were $1,000 flagships before that, and
Yep.
then there was this brilliant little time
Where they all got
we
really
could
cheap.
afford them, and then we got the Titan again.
So it struck me when I looked at that board today of holy crap, the highest end single GPU was $280 something, and now it's $649. Right? Yeah. So here is a new inbox. ASUS 4870X2 top overclocked edition.
DDR5.
DDR5.
DDR5. So fast.
Wait,
It's
is that
got little streaks
GDDR
behind
or
it.
just DDR?
I probably G.
Okay. But it's
but-
overclocked. That's
Oh yeah.
you're getting.
So that
percentage.
card was $369 at one point, and it was like new.
Yeah.
You know,
It
was
still
like,
is
It was
new.
like new, right? Like that. I'll sell it to you for $369 today.
Tempting.
That's worth 5.
So what this shows us is it's not just performance per dollar, and it's not bundles, and it's
Yeah.
more than that.
Yeah.
And NVIDIA knows what that is. That's marketing and branding. It's drivers. It's technology. It's things like G-Sync. It's things like, frequently updated drivers and WCL support and all that other crap that mean something to gamers more than just how many frames per second you get. Clearly,
You
this
should
data
add that
shows
to
it.
the giveaway tonight.
No, I'm keeping it. It's going in the museum later.
It's vintage.
Let's move on. It's late. Windows
Yeah.
10 has added DirectX 12. I don't know if there's anything else to that, Jeremy, in this story.
Wasn't that a while ago?
No. Well, now they have included drivers.
Oh, okay.
Windows
Yeah,
Update
and-
pushes out drivers now.
So there's NVIDIA and AMD.
Display driver 2.0 as well.
Oh.
That is the
Right.
new. That is the new version of WDDM.
Yeah.
That
But of course, we
is
don't have
required for
anything
this.
that really plays with it nicely, so we don't know
there's
how
no
well
there's
it
no
works.
DX12 applications yet.
Right.
But if you have DX10 installed and you start to update your drivers, you will notice. I'm sorry.
12.
No, Windows 10, DX12.
Yes.
If you have Windows 10 and you run
You
some
do a
updates, you
driver
will see
update.
DX12 installed, and now drivers, different drivers. GeForce 34965 is what you'll get, which is newer than what's available on the website. So
Interesting.
And if you believe the guy that sets fire to AMD processors, they can now support mixed GPUs, which he's literally the only source right now. So
Windows 10?
I take that with a
you
grain
could
of
do that
salt.
in Windows 8 and Windows 7 for that matter.
Multi GPU mixed,
You mean like SLI with multi GPU?
or like Lucid like.
No, that's DX12 will
Yeah.
support that, but it needs to be written into the engine. It's not a DX12 specific thing. Like
It's a Hydra specific.
It's
thing.
much like Mantle in that a GPU just shows up as a compute device, and you can use it. So if there are multiple compute devices, you can in theory just use them all
For physics?
for whatever you
for
want,
science.
or for science. So if you have that there,
So more testing is needed.
right.
Pay attention. There will be updates.
Jeremy, do you have any worries about your AC cables at your house there?
Well, no, because I only use out-of-spec cables. I only use the ones that I expect to catch on fire, and
This is
I'm
great.
constantly looking
This
at
is
them.
such a great
And
story.
you purchase additional homeowners insurance before using these out of spec cables.
There's insurance?
Well, in America, we get insurance.
I'm in North America.
It's close.
Oh,
it's America's
The
hat.
north
different.
part.
Yeah.
So what am I
I'm
looking
up
at
north
here?
too, but I'm not quite. far.
Explain what I'm looking at, because this just looks like a power cable.
So if you buy those super duper cheap friggin' cables off of technically a supplier, not reputable,
Well,
not
this came with a
irreputable,
device.
people you've never bloody well heard of, the AWC may not be completely accurate.
This cable came with a specific.
It was like a hard drive dock. It was a Vantech hard drive dock, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, and so the cable, even though it is the same form factor, even though the cable was cut off on the end, there,
Yeah, rubber cord.
it would be the one that would plug
in.
into back of your power supply, right? Even though it has the same form factor as that.
And since it's rated for 250 volt at 10 amp on the connector.
Oh, it says it on the cable
Yep.
connector. It does. Okay.
No, it says it on the connector.
Wow.
Not all the way down the cable.
Right. See, the connector is rated for that. Maybe the cable is not.
The cable, not so much.
So the issue is that if you were to choose, like, you don't use that device anymore, you put the power cable away, you're building a new computer, you reach into the closet, you pull out a power cable that is the same shape on both sides that you need, you plug it in and use it, and suddenly the cable melts.
You know what? There is an easy answer to this.
Sebastian is always good at our computer builds, so go
Buy
ahead.
the monster cables?
What's better than a monster for tackling raw power?
I don't
An anaconda.
My fingers?
I don't know.
I sent the link in Hip Chat. If you could bring it up.
My anaconda don't want them.
It's big, it's black, and it can handle a lot of power.
Holy crap.
And look, it's on sale. It's on sale for just $23.95.
$23.95?
There are some zeros afterwards, which I think you can round off. I believe
6 inches or a foot.
You can order it in different lengths
Oh, how handy.
if you want to. The maximum savings are on the
It's got a 60-day
1.75.
guarantee for that price.
There's an M after it, which I'm not sure. Jeremy could help me out with this. I'm not sure what that measurement is. M stands for measurement.
It stands
I
for
believe.
male.
Yes.
Yes.
It's been measured.
Okay. It's been
It's a
measured to 1.75.
$2,400 for a 15 amp power cord. That seems to make sense to me.
So, I mean,
down with
standard 15 amp service, and I don't think you have to worry about this one catching fire. So this is the
Does,
answer.
We'll do it impressively.
There's probably nothing in between these two extremes.
So I guess this is just a PSA for people to be careful about the cables you're using. I mean, here he cut them open and showed you the difference.
This is pretty skimpy on the
right on how
One is
much
twisted
copper
cable.
there is.
One is not.
Yeah, geez.
One is using proper conditioner.
The blog post author
The
apparently
others.
tested their own cable under load, and they claim that it started to melt at 2.6 amps, 123 volts at 320 watts. It started
which
to
is
melt.
stupidly small.
So if you plug that into about any power supply under load,
But what did it come with?
Like a Vantech external hard drive dock
Which drew
thing.
how much?
not
Way
that.
less than that.
But the cable
the
says
issue
it's
is-
in a
rated.
drawer or something, and then you don't.
Yeah,
you
if you
grab
use
and
it
like,
for
oh,
something
it's-
else, then
And even if
But
you
do you
check
really
the
label
cable,
your cable to say, "Oh, this is the one that came with a Vantech"?
Yeah.
oh, and it was labeled.
This is the one that came with a
10 amp,
2,000 watt
250,
PSU.
240 volt.
Okay, so it's labeled wrong.
Yes.
Clearly, yeah.
It is an illegal cable.
I can't believe it.
It's not cool.
Okay, our last story.
Caveat emptor.
Yeah, our last story. NVIDIA faces, remember that 970 we talked about?
Oh yeah, the 970. I haven't heard about that in so long.
NVIDIA is now, NVIDIA and Gigabyte, interestingly enough, are facing the first officially filed class action lawsuit.
And
because of
you.
this. No, they're not suing me.
Well, no, but they're calling you as an expert witness.
I friggin' hope that's not the case. My
Don't you get
my
paid
story
to be
is
an expert witness. Can you do that professionally?
yes.
By who?
That would be cool.
Well, it depends. You can either get paid by the defendant or the plaintiff.
Not if you're subpoenaed.
But Ryan,
Correct.
Ryan, he ain't got time for that.
I that's true.
The rent is too damn high.
So I mean, here is a link. You can go find it. It is on Scribd. Is that how you pronounce that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Scribed. Scribed. That's got to be what it is, right?
Scribed.
Scribed. Yeah. NVIDIA lawsuit, you can go see here. It was filed in San Francisco because, of course. And there it is. And if we do a quick, let's see.
You're controlling F for Shroud.
Let's see.
I don't know if it's OCR'd.
Oh, it might not be.
Oh no, they have their own search thing. Okay.
Yeah, no,
That does look just like
worse
scans.
PDF.
Yeah.
Long story short, they're suing
Oh,
about
here it is.
3.5
Nope, here it is, right
versus
here.
4 gigs. There you go.
Referencing our story, mentioning us in the thing.
Oh, the plaintiff is a citizen of Michigan and resides in Cass County, Michigan. What county do you live in, Sebastian?
Not Cass County.
Seems convincing.
As he types away, counties in Michigan.
Yes.
So there's that. So NVIDIA's getting sued for it. Now officially, people had theorized and had done what do you call it, like discovery for it.
So the argument's going to be not 256-bit bus width.
The argument is going to be not a true 4 gigs,
Right.
not 256-bit,
Right.
not 2 megs of L2 cache, and not 64 ROPs.
Okay, so the second two,
Are
Second-
accurate.
they got
true.
something.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though. The first two, I don't think are going to hold up in a court argument.
I would
'cause you
not
can actually
tend.
point at
I
them
would
and
tend to
count
believe
1, 2,
that
3,
as
4.
well. But
Because even a GPU, even a 980, right? And some people are going to probably not understand this, but even a 980 is not using all 256 bits 100% of the time.
yeah,
Depending on what data is where, it's just hitting that RAM.
So
like,
here-
it's
here
not
are
all just
the,
like all on, all off, right?
here are the material representations that were violated, apparently. Quote, these are all quotes. NVIDIA lists specifications on its website stating the GTX 970, the standard memory configuration is 4 gigabytes, in quotes,
Correct.
with the memory interface is GDDR5. An example is
Correct.
attached here too.
Those are both true.
Gigabyte states on its website that the specific model is integrated with the industry's best 4 gigabyte GDDR5 memory 256-bit memory interface.
It's still true.
Example attached.
I don't think it's the industry's best, but
Yeah, that's another issue.
Maybe not the industry's best. Okay.
Yeah, but they claimed it, so.
In the GTX 970 Reviewer's Guide sent to all media intended to review, repeat the specifications of, describe, and promote the GTX 970, NVIDIA stated that the GTX 970 had 2 megs of L2 cache, 64 ROPs. The product packaging for the Gigabyte card represents the product as a 4 gigabyte device. Examples attached.
It is.
Despite
It is.
defendants' uniform representations to the contrary, the GTX 970 does not provide these advertised specifications in actual use. And that's the defendant failed to disclose the true specifications because defendant's claims were included in advertisements, marketing, and sales presentations. A reasonable consumer who would purchase these products would likely be misled into believing the 970 functioned using a full 4 gigs of VRAM, 64 ROPs, 2 megs of cache, when that
so
is
they thought
not
they were
the
buying
fact.
a 980 for cheap.
No, I think you're just missing it too easily.
No, and that was
Right.
a cheesy comment.
No, but yeah,
Like-
defendants' misrepresentation and omissions alleged herein are the type that should or would be material to typical product purchasers, i.e., a reasonable person interested in these types of devices would attach importance to them and would be induced to act on the information making the purchasing
But the
decision.
defense to that is, would they actually be affected by them? So if they
That's
want
not-
the majority
that's
of
not the
users,
argument.
That's not the argument. It's true. Even if you're
I
not
get it.
adversely affected about it, if it's false advertising, essentially,
yeah,
then that's what they're looking at.
Yeah, but they won't even contest it in court. They will
Deceptive
totally
marketing
accept it.
scheme.
I mean, LinkedIn, that huge password kerfuffle, I believe is the proper word to use there. They paid it $1 per aggrieved participant. They just settled that today. It went out to that was what you made for your password being leaked to everybody on the damn planet that could care. Was $1.
huh?
They talk
Yeah.
about NVIDIA's record profits were driven in part by the sale of the company's flagship 970 GPUs, which is likely why it did not want to disclose the material limitations at issue herein until after it had made millions of dollars in sales in such products. On January 25th, Jonah Albin admitted that while the 970 technically features 4 gigs of RAM, the final 512 part runs at a far slower rate than the first 3.5 gigs. This is not a technical glitch. as from a practical standpoint, this means that when the purchaser uses the 970, when a true 4 gigs of VRAM is needed, once 3.5 gigs is reached, the program will slow down or sputter. Albin admitted the ROP and L2 differences. Despite the admission, Defendant NVIDIA and Defendant Gigabyte both continue to advertise and market the devices in this manner.
There's only one satisfactory ending to this case. The engineers get to impale the PR people,
PR guys that
on
made
a
the
short
guide.
spike.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what it came down to. The engineers already told them this is exactly what it does. And the PR people are like, oh, no, I'm going to brand it as this.
I don't even think it was that.
Let the hail the PR people.
I don't even think it was that far. I think it was just PR people going, "Oh, how much memory? Okay." And just like
Yeah.
I mean, I could see that happening. That's the thing. It's the PR people aren't like
This is going to take a long time, so it's not like next week we're going to have a conclusion of this.
yeah, it's
but
true.
I figured everybody should know.
Months. Yeah.
I figured everybody should know. Feel free to leave us your thoughts in the comments below.
Lovely.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. whatever they say.
I'm sure most will like.
Real quick question. Because I thought this was easier than replying to the email. I don't know. Alex wanted to know, quick question regarding DX12. He's planning to buy a new graphics card soon, but wanted a DirectX 12 card for the fancy new features. So he's considering the 970 or the 980. The question is, are these real DX12 cards? Since DX12 development is still going on, how can these cards be fully DirectX 12 compliant? It's a very good question. DX12 standard was finalized before these parts were finalized.
Yeah.
These will have full spec
hardware support
for DX12.
Yeah.
So you'd be fine with those parts.
How far back does DX12 hardware support go?
970, 980.
That's it.
960.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. There's no AMD products that can claim full DX12 support. Now remember, a lot of DX12 will be backported to support on older hardware, like the whole efficiency side of things.
Sure.
But the new features of DX12 require new hardware.
Things requiring hardware acceleration specifically.
Right.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Okay. Hardware software picks of the week. This is the part where we tell you things to buy or not buy or
use.
I don't know, whatever.
Stuff.
Oldie but a goodie from me starting out, and it's only because it was relevant to me as I attempt to discharge batteries
very quickly
as possible, as it turns out, using something like Prime 95.
Well, that'll do it.
Not only as a stress test for hardware, but also as a good way to take a battery that normally lasts about 3.5 hours and make it last 39 minutes.
That's awesome.
When you're trying to discharge it, just so you can measure recharge rates a little bit faster. So that's Prime 95. It's been around forever. I don't know when the last time it's been updated.
How many cores does it use? Does it just use?
It'll use all of it. As many instances as there are threads, it'll start.
Type in
pretty
any
awesome.
number you want.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You could run it on the streaming machine.
Yeah, the stream machine.
If you don't know what Prime 95 is, you basically would use, like, if you're overclocking your system, you want to stress test it before you actually go in and start gaming or do anything work-wise. Run it, set it, have Prime 95 run overnight. Like, that's the typical type of thing. And if your system is up in the morning
with very good cooling,
Yeah, that's true.
it will destroy hardware, not figuratively, or not literally, figuratively instead.
Well,
And if your system's still up running,
Possibly literally.
if your system's up running in the morning when you get up, congratulations, you probably have a stable.
if you had a
setup.
house fire in the middle of the night,
If the fire department woke you up, that was a failure.
not so much.
And also if it crashed or it's rebooted, then increase voltage or lower clock speed and try again another night. So that's Prime 95. Don't go to
Increase voltage?
prime95.com.
2 volts.
Decrease voltage.
Just search Prime 95. It's technically the great internet, how do you say that? Mercine Prime search?
What was that other one? There was
Mercini
one.
Prime.
Mercian.
There was another one I was thinking of, but it's only single threaded. It was that Super Pi, whatever thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you
Yep,
can run that on
Super Pi.
multiple.
Yeah.
You can run multiple instances of that, but
Yep.
yeah. All right, I guess Alan.
This is not Jeremy?
Jeremy, what do you got?
Oh, it's me.
Yeah.
Well, seeing as how SSL is as fishy as my pickled herring
Oh, that's awesome.
nowadays, I'm looking back to the old days, and I'm not a huge fan of remakes, but Homeworld Remastered, as much as it says that, yeah, we can't really make good AAA games anymore, what they've done with this is just amazing. And I doubt Josh is actually at the basketball games. He's playing this. It's pretty frickin' neat. Not only have they made it prettier, they've revamped the interface. They've got some of the old developers to get on this. If you've never played it before, well, you're young and get off my lawn. But buy this game and play it. If you're my age or older and you've played it before, play it again. It's actually going to be a hell of a lot of fun.
Do I need a flight stick?
You didn't play Homeworld, did you, Ryan?
Do I need a flight stick?
It's fleet
strategy,
it's not
right?
fighter.
Okay.
The mothership is ready.
Is it just RTS or MMO? Which one is it?
It's RTS.
Okay.
It's a very slow fleet paced RTS. But
You don't
it's
have to
also
argue with
going to get,
Alan in that
some
regard.
No.
multiplayer.
I have a quota of 1 on MMOs I will not exceed.
It's not an MMO.
It's not Eve.
like-
Good.
You mean a
but
lifetime
it's going to
quota?
feel like Eve
Like-
in a way.
Like
just
WoW for life. Like
a much
you're set,
smaller
you're
Eve.
done.
No, like 1 at a time.
Oh, okay.
And yeah.
Well, you can only play
Yeah,
one at a
I have a
time.
limit of 0 for MMS.
I guess you can have them on dual monitor setup.
You could live
You
the
could.
life. You could live the life.
Or you could 6-box
Does
1.
Windows support 2 keyboards simultaneously?
Not doing
with a KVM switch that's good enough, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, there are KVMs that you can put the keyboard to 1.
Could you
and,
play one in a VM and then...
You could.
Yeah. You could do it on your laptop right now.
No.
That's what he's doing. That's
Side
what
by
I needed.
side Windows
He just needs
XP
another
VMs.
distraction.
No.
Alan, what do you got?
Al, if you haven't played it, I highly recommend grabbing these.
I agree.
They're 33
So,
bucks.
so Jeremy, if you would hold up that jar again briefly, so I could see that superfish that's
Oh.
on it.
Pickled herring?
Where are you going?
Oh,
Where?
I'm
there we
all
go.
crazy.
See, it looks just like a superfish. Yeah.
Yeah, but I expect this to be, questionable and pickled and fishy.
Yeah. So if you've got Lenovo laptops and you haven't seen any of the 25 different news article things that have come out lately, oh, there, it's back up. Good. There is a superfish removal tool that applies to Lenovo laptops that came with this superfish adware
Does
kind
it
of.
fix the Komodo fuckery too?
I don't know about that one, but superfish is really bad. That's a term. I've never heard those two words together before in my entire life, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look at that one after. Anyway, Sebastian's just like beside him. That's Sebastian beside himself. That's what it looks
Literally.
like. Yes, actually beside himself. So superfish is bad. Okay, you don't want this on your system. It's basically just has a root SSL certificate, which means that even if you're on a secure website and some malicious actor hooks into using this other root certificate that's already there, it's like the back door is kind of already there, right? So they can just inject stuff into a secure website.
Into the back door.
Yes, they can inject stuff into the back door. Sausage, right?
Like Carrizo.
Like we said
we
earlier.
talked about this a little bit
We've
last
talked
week.
about this,
so-
yes.
Yeah.
You weren't here, but we talked about it.
Oh, the superfish stuff? Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. So bad
no,
news.
Privdog from
You don't want that kind of
Komodo
thing
is
on your
even
system.
worse.
There was a little bit of back and forth. Like Lenovo initially said, "Well, we thought this would be better for you," and like then Superfish.
No. As soon as this was an issue, they said that they admitted they had stopped shipping it in January already.
Yeah.
And that they realized it was bad, and they stopped shipping it.
Meanwhile, Superfish themselves were all like, their CEO was all,
Well, no shit.
Yeah.
being like, "Oh, there's nothing wrong with this at all." No,
course.
it's bad.
So here's the thing: the removal tool doesn't remove the cert, so you still have to manually remove the cert. So
Yes.
they have instructions
Yep.
about that on their website.
There are instructions, yes.
Just didn't ship on ThinkPad. So if you have a ThinkPad, don't worry, they didn't ship this on business notebooks.
Okay. Yep.
Nope.
Also good.
They're not shipping it anymore. They'll learn from this mistake. They'll never do anything like this again. Let's be honest. Totally
Yeah,
It's-
shit.
it's-
I'm sure they will not.
It shipped
Yes.
from October through
January.
December, and they'd stopped in January.
Okay.
Like it wasn't.
So
on the,
there's a window there. It's a sizable window, but
Yeah.
it's fairly small, I guess, in the grand scheme.
like I have a friend who bought a Yoga 3 Pro a couple months ago. Not on it.
Okay.
It's yeah. It's probably not on any machine that any of us. Would
Well, no,
have,
because
but-
because when they initially were trying to recreate this, somebody went to a Best Buy, bought a Lenovo system off of the shelf, and it had this on it.
Well, guess what? Systems sit on the shelf for a long time.
That's my
Yeah.
point, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like just because they stopped putting it on them in January doesn't mean that you might not
Sure.
buy one right now that has this on it, right? And the fact that it's no longer in use, but the certificate's still there, that's even worse.
and
right? 'Cause
also
now it's like
and also at Microsoft Defender, which is enabled by default in Windows anymore, If you don't have an antivirus,
It finds it.
it will remove it.
It finds it now. Like they've added this
Correct.
to
So-
all of the
Yeah.
big AV vendors. So not just Defender.
That's good.
yeah. So yeah,
Noteworthy if you have
use that tool,
Lenovo.
get off your system, and not only that, but heck, if you're buying a system and it has a bunch of crapware on it, just if you're competent enough, just do the reinstall. Like, be safe. That's the
Yeah,
safest way to go is
key
clean Windows
underneath
install.
the battery, just reinstall it.
Yeah, you could do that in some cases.
Yeah.
Just buy a Microsoft Premier Edition laptop. Or whatever they
Signature
call it.
edition?
Signature.
Edition.
And in a
from
lot
the Microsoft
and in a
Store.
lot of cases, if you're buying these systems with like kind of a smaller SSD, right, and SSD space is at a premium, or like,
Yeah.
and there's a boot recovery image sitting on there taking up 20 gig of 128 gig SSD.
Who would ever want a boot recovery image?
Like that's
insane.
That saved my ass on
here's
this
the
machine
thing. But here's the
twice.
thing: you can back that image up.
Right.
You can through Windows. You can.
I know.
You can back up
The
that
convenience
image
of
to
having
something
it
else
here
right?
is with you all the time.
No,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But you can have it on like an external, and just carry the external. If you're that worried about it, carry the external with you, right?
But like Ryan's
Like a thumb
laptop-
drive.
Ryan's hard drive has bit the dust in San Francisco before, and you need
When I was on
you
a
need
work
a laptop.
trip, and I
so-
could hit
Yeah.
the Think Vantage button and have it
That's true.
up and running again in 30 minutes. I've used it twice. It's been really, really nice.
Or I guess not your hard drive dying, your Windows install.
Yeah, it's Windows
Yeah,
installed.
yeah,
just-
yeah.
It was
Which is-
8.1 installing.
Which I'm surprised.
Yeah, it
That's-
was a Windows 1 upgrade.
I don't know why that happens to you so often.
It wasn't a hard drive issue. It was a
No,
software
but
issue.
just Windows going boom.
Yeah, it was Windows 8 update.
Oh,
And probably hibernate happened or standby at the wrong time.
I don't know. I was
Battery
sitting in the
died.
lobby at the Marriott in Santa Clara, and
running Windows 8.1.
no, I was
update.
just like working, just kind of waiting, and crap happened. So
Oh.
anyway,
Sebastian,
Sebastian, what do you got?
I've got. Well, Ken was actually telling me about this today, and I didn't realize this was even a thing. I've heard of the Moto E. It's a super low cost smartphone from Motorola. It's unlocked. It's $119.
These
Well-
people love it.
Yes.
119.
And this is the new Moto E. It's the second edition,
Okay.
which is $149. But there's a couple of big differences. The main one is this unlocked phone now has LTE.
Sweet.
The previous good unlocked smartphone was the Moto G second edition, which is the problem with it was it didn't have LTE.
Okay.
It was a quad core Snapdragon. And
The
it was-
Lollipop?
It was okay. Yeah.
Only got 8 gigs of storage by default.
But it has a
Has a
micro SD slot. It has a removable battery. Like the back of this thing pops off. And
Okay.
so you can stick your SIM card in there. You can put in more storage if you want to.
Okay.
And
Well, it still doubles a hammer.
So 150 bucks
it can.
off contract.
Right.
unlocked
Off
phone.
contract, you just buy the phone outright. And
This is the type of phone you buy and take to an MVNO.
exactly.
Right? That
Which is
is
a
a
huge part of this.
non-contract
Yeah.
LTE. What was the Verizon one that we kind of figured out before? Ken, can you remember what it was?
Oh yeah, it's some weird kind of sketchy name.
Yeah, but it's
Blackberry?
unlocked lollipop. No, like lollipop.
It's 5.0. It's unlocked, and I was looking at the specs. Like I was comparing it to the Moto G. The Moto G had a quad core, and it was the Snapdragon 400. So it's quad core Cortex A7 with
Yeah.
Adreno 305. This one has the 410.
Yep.
So it's
should be
A53.
a brand new part.
Right, it's brand
Yeah.
new. It's Adreno 306 graphics, a little bit better graphics. It's got 1.4 gigahertz quad core A53.
It's only got a gig of RAM.
1 gig of RAM, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can't have everything.
No, I know.
and it's definitely low spec, but it's better than the Moto G, at least on
Man,
paper.
$150 sounds so much better than the $700.
The big,
I know, right?
the
Note
big
4
drawback
type of
is
thing,
screen
but-
resolution. It's only 540 by 960. It's still an IPS screen. It's 4.5 inches. This is a little bit smaller device. But if you think about the way that they do scaling on phones, like the Nexus 5, I loved my Nexus 5.
Yeah.
Had a 1080p display, 4.95 inches or something like that. And that scaling to make it look so smooth, integer scaling on a 1080p screen is effective 540 by 960. So that type of real estate, the spacing between the icon size is that size.
Okay.
One of the things I noticed with the Moto G, because I used that phone for a little while to test it out, the second edition, was that the 720p screen on that was very similar to like a QHD screen, just not as sharp. So I mean, you don't get the super crisp, fine text like on a full size website before you zoom in or something, but it renders well. And the lower resolution means that you get higher frame rates throughout the OS, and if you're playing a game or something, it's rendering at a much lower resolution. So the lower end hardware matched by the low res screen.
Look at a picture of the back of the device real quick.
It looks like a Moto X.
Yeah, it has that same design language.
Like, yeah.
I saw this one. This one?
It doesn't have a flash.
Okay, so it's kind of playing in that Lumia 635 world.
There was another phone recently that I saw that didn't have a flash.
Also, I lied. The 410 is in a new part. It's like a year old.
Oh, well, it's
really?
newer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to get that out there.
Oh, okay.
But it's just interesting. I mean, it's got a decent sized battery too for the
23, almost 2400 milliamp hour.
Mm-hmm.
Moto E.
I kind of want to get one just to see. Like,
we should do that.
Is it responsive? Is it?
Can you just buy it
Might
now?
be more responsive than any of the really high res.
Choose black or
phones.
white.
Is it in like retail now?
I've seen the Moto E in retail and through like MVNOs, like prepaid.
But I walk into a
the
Best Buy
second
and buy one.
I don't know if you could buy the second edition yet. Maybe.
Yeah.
Interesting. We will look.
That's
We will
almost
look,
like
see.
oh no, I destroyed my phone. I still have a year left of my contract. I guess I'll just buy a Moto E and put my SIM card in it.
Right, and if you're on
Right.
T-Mobile or AT&T here, or on an MVNO that uses a SIM card that uses one of their networks, then this will get the job done and will actually have LTE speed.
Man, these are the types of things that make me wish like I didn't have Verizon as my primary.
Man, you got to go with the SIM card.
Oh,
Yeah.
you could do worse, right?
Verizon's network was so much better than everybody else's when I moved over. AT&T's better now, but
Even T-Mobile's gotten a lot better. I was testing out a T-Mobile SIM.
not
this
really
week.
here.
You get LTE.
It's super fast when you have it. When you have LTE, it's super fast. When you don't have LTE, you might as well be writing a letter.
As an experiment, I brought a Moto X with a T-Mobile SIM in it on my way down.
Yep.
And every once in a while, I'd look over and I had it on the activity, like signal strength screen. And I was LTE almost all the way down. There were a couple of places where I dropped off to UTMS, and then I was in
but the highway is
unknown,
like
voice
the
only.
best case scenario.
Especially for T-Mobile.
Do you, because of the giant towers right off of the highway?
Well, it's
all
just
the way
like
down?
yeah. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
like you're giving it the best possible chance.
I don't know, man. Middle of nowhere.
Yeah, but
That
still,
drive
like if they're
is-
going to put it anywhere in the middle of nowhere, they're going to put it on the highway.
I do think, though, because I tried this out 2 years ago, and there was nothing. Like where I live in Southwest
I think it's better. I agree.
Because they acquired, or I don't know what exactly happened with Metro PCS. I think they just bought them.
I don't know. Yeah.
But they have all their LTE towers because Metro PCS had no interest in HSDPA plus. They weren't trying to do like second gen 3G stuff. They were just building LTE, and T-Mobile acquired all of those towers. So the LTE coverage has gotten significantly better. If you were in an area where you had any kind of Metro PCS coverage, you now have T-Mobile LTE. So
Metro PCS. Let's say.
okay,
Yeah, no. I think that phone's worth testing out for $150.
I think it might be worth $149.
It might be.
All things considered.
It's possible.
But not 150.
Not 150. If it's 150,
No.
I don't want it. That's going to do it for the show. It was a long one this week. Would like to thank everybody for hanging out with us in the live stream. Again, PCPer.com/podcast is the URL you can find our audio files, our YouTube embeds. We are also starting a new thing where we are embedding our podcast through SoundCloud. So if you use SoundCloud on your phone or you subscribe to people that way, if you follow people that way, you can now follow SoundCloud.com/PCPer, and you can use it. We'll have an embedded player, so you can just play it in line there if you that's more convenient for you for the audio version as well. So it's a new way of trying to get as many ways as possible for you to get access to the podcast. And then I guess that's it. PCPer.com/live. What's this? Oh,
There's
yeah.
still QuakeCon.
Maury did want us to make sure we remembered to mention that QuakeCon registration has opened. It's at quakecon.org.
I don't think it's open.
It's
Thought it did. Or maybe
the
it's
dates
open.
are announced.
dates have been
I think they
announced.
just announced the details of registration.
The dates
I
are
don't think
announced.
it's open.
registration
so
details.
when will registration begin?
Maury's probably already bending acrylic tubing.
July 20. Well, no,
the
that's when it
event
kicks
is the
off.
23rd through the 26th. I don't see when it.
March.
Oh,
March.
is it March?
And
We will be
CPU socket
there.
Pins.
childbirth pending. We will
That's
be
true.
there with our workshop, and we're actually working out. I think we're going to have a more official podcast recording at QuakeCon. I think EVGA wants to sponsor us to get a room and some seats and some drinks and stuff.
That's a lot of pressure to put on our podcast.
It is. It is.
Wait, they're getting you a room and they're getting you some drinks? I don't think that's a podcast.
a conference room.
When they said they
Not
were,
a bedroom.
Might be a really good
were
podcast,
filming
actually.
something, I don't think it was a podcast.
Are you guys going to bring video cameras? Oh yeah. Oh no, we're sponsored.
No,
by
no,
that.
we have a video
Oh, we're
camera.
sponsored.
Don't
No,
worry
they're,
about
they're
it.
just going to add an E to the end of silicon.
Yes.
Hey, it's Dallas. It is Dallas. There's a lot of that stuff in Dallas. All right, guys.
true.
We will be back. I don't know, next week. I won't be here next week.
No.
Boo.
Slacker.
Sebastian won't be here next week either. So we
just gonna wing
will. We'll talk to you guys later in some capacity. I won't, but the rest of the gang will still be here. But hey, podcast and stuff. I'm Ryan Shroud.
Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Alan Mamatano.
I'm Sebastian Peak.
See you guys.
Which camera are we looking at?